So pausing it there, his body is pretty square, pretty squared. Um, I think his height and his length are pretty equal. Here I'm trying to get a gait analysis just to see how his feet are landing, and just looking back at it, it's hard to tell just because he's trying to bump me. He's so accustomed to touching me in his walk that he's leaning towards me. But for the most part, everything does look straight. His back feet look like they're landing right where the front feet were, fairly close. Looks like they're stepping straight in line. None of his feet are going out to the side, other than when he steps over to try to bump me. Right leg sticks out. I noticed that right foot and that right knee sticks out a little more than I had ever noticed. So I had him do a lot of sitting and downing, different angles just to try to see, but that sit and that down, it was out. There, he tucked it in fairly well. There, and it's out a little bit. There, it's tucked in pretty well, both right and left. The left looks like it's tucked in pretty normal, but that right, every so often, I notice it's sticking out a little. From the side, everything looks pretty structural, pretty normal. Again, pretty straight angles in the front, nice angulation in the back. Trainer error, me not trying to get him to touch me. Definitely should have been rubbing him. I know that's reinforcing him touching me. Here, trying to see his lateral movement. This is something we hadn't worked on in a while, but yet he moves a lot more fluent to his left than he does to his right. Going to the right, and it could have something due to that leg, but going to his right, he kind of circles around me more, not so much moving laterally. He laterals a lot better to his left. Looks like that right toe sticking out slightly. Left seems pretty tucked in order. Trying to check his flexibility going circles left to right. This is not something that we've worked on. He knows spin, which is to spin around to his left, but it's not a good way to see his flexibility. So this is the first time I've actually tried to lure him all the way in a circle like this. And so he was confused. He goes into a down, he's guessing, and so I'm trying to figure out what I can do to help. So I start to move my feet. There you go. Move it out, then move it forward. That helped him move his feet a lot more. And then once he understood what was going on, it worked a little better. And he seems really stiff. I've always known that he was pretty, he's not as loose as my females, but even when he does turn, his body is pretty stiff both ways. That right leg pointing out. In his reverse, his front feet kind of spread slightly, but I'm thinking that maybe just to avoid hitting the back feet. I've never compared it to any other dogs reversing, so that may be that may be normal. It was just kind of just looking at it on video, it was a little different. So trying to pick up the pace, I didn't realize it at the time while I was moving, but watching the video I realized that his front and his back feet were stepping at the same time. So right front, right back, left front, left back. Right there was actually right, but there was a lot of stepping on the same side, which if I'd realized that, I probably would have sped up a little more or slowed down just to get the 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern, just to see where his feet were landing. But he's still trying to hop, still trying to touch me, so that didn't help seeing his foot placement anyway. But just when I do get him, so it looks fairly normal. I don't see any impurities or anything that looks out of the ordinary from the side. Again, him stepping the same side though. There we go, that's more of what I was looking for. And back feet seem to replace the front. Everything seemed to be, both front and back seemed to reach straight forward, not out to the side. They weren't missing or anything. Here we're doing front end awareness. It's probably been over a year since we've worked on Spot, and he showed the confusion. He wanted to put all 4 paws on, which is place, and so he was a little confused. So just moved it out, had him start all over. The yawn, he's getting stressed. Getting him to do some back turns, left and right, just to see. Notice that right foot went out again as he sat. Definitely should have used a bigger Spot. Or maybe smaller would have kept him from trying to put all 4 paws on there. Play around with something different next time. Here, tried to do a little stretching to see his range of motion on his stretch. Then I realized another trainer error. That was a poor sequence of exercises. After getting him to finally move his feet on going in circles and spinning around, this is very confusing for him to expect him not to move his back feet now. So in hindsight, I should have worked on his stretching, getting him to stretch left and right before trying to get him to go in circles. His tuck sits, other than his right foot and leg pointing out a little, everything else looked pretty structural, pretty normal. Tried to get him to go to a down on it, and because we hadn't worked on spot much, he didn't keep both feet on there, but I rewarded him keeping his front feet there and going into like a tuck down. That right leg pointing out. Here we did a little more stretching, and I realized he's more flexible to his left. So not yet, but the trainer and me realized, okay, this isn't working. What do I need to do? Take a step back to help him out, and then I put him in a sit. There we go. And so from here, I was able to keep those back feet from moving as much. And I realized he's more flexible going that way to his left than to his right, which would make sense because his spin is to his left. We don't do any tricks or anything like that spinning to his right, so it could be muscle memory, could be lack of muscle build because he doesn't go that way, but he does stretch his neck, his body back a lot better to his left than he does to his right. Part of this could also be that we've never practiced stretching, so it gives me something else as a trainer to work on. Then I had him weave through my legs a few times just so I can see on the camera if I noticed anything with his feet going, any difference going left and right. Then we did some jumping. Right before he jumps, I noticed both his back and his back left and right kind of well, maybe it's because of the gathered to jump, but they kind of splay out before positioning under him for the jump. Let's see if he does it again. Not so much as in the second jump. They did it that time. And after watching it a few times, it may just be him getting ready to jump.